I'm an ordinary guy, and I'm going to go back to work on Monday, and I'm still going to be an ordinary guy on Monday. And I said to Ned, don't get your head, don't get carried away with this. We just want to get back on with our lives, and we've done what we've done.
Let's just get back to being normal.
There are times when it is more important to stand up for the way this society operates than worry about your own personal concerns. This was one of them. We want to acknowledge in what we're doing right now that the traditional owners of this land have never ceded sovereignty, they've never sold their land, and that the Ngunnawal people, we pay our respects to them, their elders past and present. I've been complaining about the treatment of refugees in offshore detention for a long time, and I've been one of those people that was aware somewhat of the issues, and what I knew about it I didn't like. When two young people the age of my eldest children set themselves alight on Nauru within days of each other in late April and early May of 2016, I was just staggered by it. And what staggered me was working with criminals, and I've been involved as a criminal lawyer in cases where people have been in prison for life. It's not that suicide in jail is unknown, but they certainly don't set themselves on fire, and by and large they don't kill themselves at all. Anyway, Ned and I were talking about it, right? And I picked him up from soccer. He said, Dad, would it hurt if you set yourself on fire? And I said, well, that cut finger of yours, it'd be like that cut finger, but you'd be like that all over, and then your skin would start to peel off. To which he went, oh Dad, shut up. And I went, oh my God, I've harmed my poor child, because he was 12 at the time, right?
Yeah.
And then about 2 seconds later he goes, what can be done about it? And I just said nothing. I felt actually really ashamed, because I taught him that real men protect women and children, and they stand up for what's right. And I actually had to confront that I couldn't possibly teach that to my son if I wasn't prepared to do it myself.
When Dad told me, I was like, yeah, sure, you're going to be walking to Canberra. And then he's like, no, I'm serious. And I realised, yep, he's serious. And I wanted to do it. I volunteered to do it. It didn't take me long. That was my choice completely. Walking to Canberra is something that no kid, I think, has ever done. And not many adults, if any, apart from the ones that made the roads. The biggest experience we learned on this walk was that most Australians are good buggers. Like, there are a few that are a bit iffy. 3 people have given us the finger, 2 of them while we've been in Canberra on this march. But the Australians are a good mob, we're good buggers. 65% of people sign. We were expecting more of a 25% ratio.
And we thought we'd cop abuse. We actually left prepared for it. I had to prepare him. He was 13 years old. What were you going to say to a kid? People from all different socio-economic groups. People extremely well-dressed driving BMWs, and then young people, old people. It's remarkable. Truckies, all sorts. A lot of people are absolutely angry with what's being done, because it offends our sense of fairness, and there's a quintessential quality to an Australian, the whole idea of a fair go, and it seems to rub off on everyone here. I certainly would have preferred to go by hovercraft, airplane, car. There'd been a lot of other better ways to go, but it just seemed a way that we could underline the protest, and so the intention, and underline it in such a way that it might get media attention. And the whole intent was to raise awareness and get a petition.
Because doing it is so incredibly damn hard, especially in summer. But the thing is, the media only started to actually do stuff and actually got interested in about the last 200 Ks. There was the old radio interview, like the one we got in Newry. That was really good.
The reality of what's going on is so contrary to our internal reality of how we perceive ourselves and our nation and the way our nation operates, that it is not able to be easily digested by people when that occurs. And that's a process that's happening, and indeed, this very interview is part of that process. When Aussies wake up, 2 things are going to happen. Number one, it's going to stop, and it's going to stop quickly. And what I pray is it doesn't stop as a result of half a dozen people killing themselves one after the other and the whole world condemning Australia, because we're getting flogged internationally over this, and the average Aussie doesn't know that either. And number two, there's going to be such a lowering of respect for government. It saddens me. But what we need to get it to stop because of the impact. Our children are going to have to deal with the shame of this. And they'll be dealing with it. It's this generation's stolen generations. And those politicians that have delivered it and handed it to our children are going to live in infamy for what they've done. You know, their legacies, Gillard, Abbott, Rudd, all of them. And you know, Turnbull and Abbott with his little lackeys, you know, Morrison and Dutton. You know, what those men are prepared to do for votes beggars belief. I know a lot of prostitutes are an awful lot more honest than that. I've acted for a bunch of them. You know, the bottom line is that you know, the average crim's got more honesty about it than that. They don't engage. There's one thing they won't engage in, and that's child abuse, you know. One of the really cool things that came out of, we went and paid our respects at the Aboriginal Tent Embassy, and they said no one has ever asked them, well, how do you feel about refugees coming to Australia? And they said, number one, that they are both sympathetic and empathetic about what has been done. They think that they've been treated illegally in offshore detention, and that they would be generous to others when, of all people, surely the Aboriginals who were virtually made refugees in their own country would be so generous. So I thought it was amazing. One of the elders, Banal Kammanara, I hope I pronounced his name correctly, he quoted scripture, he could quote constitutional law issues, and I'd studied a little bit of constitutional law. He knew way more about constitutional law than I knew, and they gave us permission to say that the elders of the Aboriginal Tent Embassy expressly welcome refugees to Australia. And I just thought that was amazing that they would do that. And I think that was, no one said much about it at the moment, but I actually think that was a political coup. And whether the media pick it up, I don't know, but it depends how astute the journos are, but it's actually huge that the Aboriginal Tent Embassy has said they welcome refugees. And furthermore, they said they'd be happy to issue passports for them, you know, Aboriginal passports for them, which was incredible. And in their opinion, the passports were valid and recognised by the UN. The interesting thing is Australia's come full circle. I mean, we were originally colonised by prisoners sent to a nation, to an island they didn't even want to go to, which was how they colonised, you know, Tasmania, Port Arthur, etc., where they endured horrendous conditions in these awful prison camps. And here's Australia now delivering the same service to refugees 200 years on. And you thought you'd have learned something in the intervening 200 years, but it seems not. The understanding of the issues is quite deep. And when they say they've got real empathy and real sympathy, and they use both words and distinguish them, we had real empathy and real sympathy for what's being done to the refugees. They knew exactly what they were talking about. And when they said that they were welcome here, they knew exactly about that. And they even there was a phone call made to another elder during the meeting. And so they were genuinely thinking about this. And it was a real privilege to get to meet them, I've got to say. I was very moved. 2% of our population, 400,000 people are Muslim. And those Muslim members of our community make amazing contributions. You know, I have the privilege of working with a number of Muslim lawyers. I've worked with, you know, everything from restaurateurs to tradesmen and the like. These are people that are Aussies that are making great contribution. You know, you could ban Muslims based with various nationalities, and then it turns out some 15-year-old schoolboy with an Iranian background is banned from getting into America on a school excursion the day after this thing's announced. And Morrison gets up, and Morrison turns around and says, you know, America's finally learning from Australia. Oh, they're taking after us, like it was a good thing. I mean, it's the worst thing that's happened politically in terms of Western democracy since, you know, Adolf Hitler kind of had a bit of a run at it back in the 40s. He's got his former minister jumping up and down and going, whoopee, aren't we good boys? They're following us now. So Australia is leading the race into the gutter on this issue, and it's a matter of national disgrace. Full stop. The thought of children being raised in a phosphate quarry, you know, with phosphate dust, I mean, it's toxic, and the men are being harmed or menaced, and you know, it's all beyond belief. It just needs to stop. It's like Australia's dirty little nightmare, and some of us are kind of awake and living the nightmare. I went and looked through photos, and I got this photo of this little girl staring through a cyclone fence with a father's hand on her shoulder, and it's a male hand. The girl must be about 6, cute as a button, looking at the camera, and you get this image of a girl behind, you know, a wire fence. And I looked at this photo, and I wondered, you know, if that were my daughter and I was the father, would I wish that someone would stand up for me? And in that moment, it was impossible for me to contemplate stopping or quitting. And I made up my mind in that moment, if I had to, I'd crawl to Canberra, but I wasn't going to stop. Nothing was going to stop, because that girl could have been my daughter. Where we go in terms of the refugee issues, I will never stop fighting this issue. But I don't know what we're going to do, but it's not over. It's not over by a long shot. And I will, you know, when I say I'm not going to stop, I mean it. And I will continue to try and raise awareness. What we'll do next, I don't know. But sure as I ain't going to be walking to Canberra. I'm not doing that again.
No. And we figured out that deja vu does not exist, because we're never going to do this again.
We've proved it doesn't exist. Yeah, I think one of the comments someone made was something like, you know, we're an abusive parent, and you know, this child should be at school. But Ned's, you know, had an education on the road in terms of flora, fauna, economic systems, weather systems, you know, you name it, he's had it. So he's missed a week of school, but it's been highly educational. And and you read Kokoda by Peter Fitzsimmons?
Yeah.
And what else?
So starting to read Tobruk.
And we went to the National War Museum, and we've just done a whole lot of stuff, and it's been good.
Yeah, it has been good.
The point is that if something's wrong and you've got kids getting harmed and you know about it and you say nothing, then, you know, as Bishop Tutu said, that when you choose silence in the face of an oppressor, then you've chosen the side of the oppressor, and I'm not going to choose to be silent. End story. If not us, soon. You know, and if not now, when? I think that was the phrase. Cool. Someone's got to do it. Also, I want to acknowledge that this trip wasn't taken by 2 people, it was taken by 3. And Pat Hill, that did the trip with us, who was a father of 7 and a fireman out of the Clare Valley in South Australia, an absolute salt of the earth, hard-bitten, great guy. And if it wasn't for Pat, we couldn't have stayed on the road, no question, and he was amazing through.